Jay here for Stretford Paddock, that's Joe Smith, and we have a bit of breaking news, as you may have already realised and seen and heard. Marcus Rashford has given an interview with Henry Winter, and it looks like it's the end of the road for Marcus Rashford and Manchester United Football Club. Joe, I'm going to get your reaction in a minute. Before we get into all that, I'm going to give you the full statement, the full quote, so we can, there's no sort of grey area or misconceptions or misquotes or us getting confused. Henry Winter's done this sort of mega tweet about, let me just get the timings of it.
It's an article, it's an interview with Rashford, isn't it?
Yeah. It's an interview with Rashford, but he's done it as almost like telling a story in a proper Henry Winter style. It isn't like you would do. If that was most people who've got an interview with Marcus Rashford and it was a quote about him leaving the football club he's been at since he was 8 years old, whatever it is, you'd have it like a bit of a clickbait thing. Henry Winter's sort of telling the story of Marcus Rashford visiting a school, and then within that is the interview bit. And he tweeted this 45 minutes ago, so it is as recent as you can get. And there's a bit in it that this is the bit that sort of everyone is focusing on, and the reason that we've sort of decided to go live is because he's speaking about whether he's going to stay at Manchester United. So it says in this tweet, he, meaning Rashford, awoke this morning to headlines detailing United's desire to sell him. I asked Rashford if he's staying or going, and this is in quotes. For me, personally, I think I'm ready for a new challenge and the next steps. Then goes on to say, this is Henry Winter again, all of his words were prefaced with respect for the club, which has been his home for almost 20 years. Then Marcus Rashford says, when I leave, it's going to be no hard feelings. You're not going to have any negative comments from me about Manchester United. That's me as a person. If I know that a situation is already bad, I'm not going to make it worse. I've seen how other players have left in the past, and I don't want to be that person. When I leave, I'll make a statement, and it will be from me, from the heart, as he'll always be a Red. From me. And then he says, from the heart, as he'll always be a Red. Yes, 100%, 100%. So that's the bit that everyone's sort of focusing on, and rightly so, because that's basically saying, I'm ready for a new challenge. I want to go. Like, if you are staying at Manchester United and you're asked the question, are you staying or going? You say, I'm staying. You don't say, I think I'm ready for a new challenge. We know what happened when Paul Pogba said those exact same words. He wanted to leave. This has come 2 days after he's been dropped from the squad, and he's asked the question, are you staying or going? And his answer is, I'm ready for a new challenge. I don't think there's any misconception here or confusion or any grey area. He's saying he wants to leave Manchester United. Yeah. He's saying that, look, I'm ready for a new challenge. It's time for me to move on. That's basically what he's saying. Just give us your reaction to that, because you've been very, very supportive and protective, and you're defending Marcus Rashford a lot, as we all have, but you especially. What do you make of what he said and the timing of it as well?
I'm quite stunned, to be honest. I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't think, not that I didn't expect him to leave, because we've spoken about this over the last week or two, and it's looked more and more likely, but I didn't expect him to come out and say, I want to leave, essentially, is what he's saying. I'm ready for a new challenge, I want to leave. Those two things are the same as far as I can make out. I didn't think he'd do that, and not like a disrespect thing. I just didn't think he would. Like, I didn't, if you'd asked me if I thought that would happen, I would have said absolutely not. It's just sad, isn't it? It is sad, and it's like, I know a lot of people will revel in this sort of short term because he's someone who's been out of form and looks as though he's a little bit disinterested at times when he's playing, and therefore people have decided that they hate him and that he was always bad and he's never had a good game for United and there was never any reason to like him. But those things aren't true. And he's had loads of great games for United and loads of great big games for United, and he's done so many good things for Man United in a time where not many people have done a lot of great things for Man United in the last 8 or 9 years since he came through. So it's a sad one, and I can't believe it, really. Like, I thought he might leave, but he's saying I want to leave, and he's never said anything like that before. Like, if someone compared him to Paul Pogba before in terms of, I think maybe missing him a bit when he's gone, kind of thing. Although not that I miss Paul Pogba particularly when you see what he's gone on to do after he left United, but in terms of their character and what they did for the club. But Pogba would flirt with leaving. Pogba would say, I'm ready for a new challenge.
He said it on camera.
Yeah.
He said it literally was on camera saying, I'm ready for a new challenge.
And that's something that, not that I would come to expect from him, but that he did, and that, didn't really surprise me. With Rashford, because he is who he is, and what he's done and for United and for the sort of Manchester, and the fact that he is an academy player and all these sorts of things, and just his general demeanour, I didn't think he would do that. And obviously fair play to Henry Winter for getting that interview. It's the sort of, everyone's been trying to find out what happened with Rashford, and you hear rumours like people have mentioned before, and he's just sort of gone, right, let me just speak to him. Like that's the sort of the test of a kind of a top journalist, in that he's just gone, forget all this noise, I'm just going to speak to the bloke who's part of this, and who's the main character in all this, and find out what he thinks. And he thinks he wants to leave, and I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel about this? Because we've just been in an absolute whirlwind. We were out for our sort of Christmas meal with the rest of the Paddock team, and we've come sort of sprinting back to the studio to kind of do this video. And me and you haven't even spoken about this yet. So how are you feeling?
I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit disappointed with it all, because it's 2 days after he got dropped from the squad. The manager's gone out and said he's trained, it's fine, there's not an issue there. And then that was on the Sunday, and on the Tuesday he's given an interview, albeit with an interview with someone we all like and respect, and who's been on this channel, saying I'm ready to go. And I just think I wanted to see him react in a more positive way than that. I wanted to see him say, all right, you dropped me from the squad for the City game, I'll show you what I'm about. Amorim left the door open for him. He said it's not a disciplinary issue. If he turns up in training, I'm paraphrasing here by the way, if he turns up in training, he'll get an opportunity again, as will Alejandro Garnacho. So it's not just Marcus Rashford, obviously it was Garnacho. So Marcus could have said, right, I'm going to show the manager he's got this one wrong, or I'm going to show the manager that I am his guy, and he could have, knuckled down, got back into the team. I thought he might have even played this week. I thought he might have even played against Spurs. Yeah. There's a chance he could have got a game against Spurs, because obviously the games are coming thick and fast. You've got Bournemouth at the weekend. There's every chance the manager would have gone, look, he's maybe not startable, he's bring you off the bench. Yeah. That would have been the right thing to do for me. But to sort of get dropped, and then to less than 48 hours later, or around 48 hours later, an interview drop say you're ready for a new challenge. I'm a bit disappointed in that. I've always loved Marcus Rashford. I'll defend him, and I think I said this the other day, when he returns to Old Trafford, if he returns to another club, he'll get a great reception from me, as long as he's not playing for the Scousers or something. But I am a bit disappointed with the timing of this, because what he's actually said isn't the worst thing I've heard. And if he did this in the summer, I'd be like, yeah, fine, absolutely, zero issue with it at all, because he talks about being a Red 100%. He talks about wanting the best of the club and always loving the club and all the rest of it. I get all that, and I agree with all that. It's the timing for me. You've just been dropped, and your reaction is, I'm off. That's how it feels. Yeah, that's how it feels, like he's to me.
His toys at the front.
Yeah, it does. It feels like that to me. And you can say, well, it's not. He just realised that he's not part of Amorim's plans, but it could be part of Amorim's plans. Amorim's only just been in the job for 5 minutes. Amorim said him and Garnacho, who were both dropped, could still feature, or not just could still feature, we'll get an opportunity, we'll get chances. He's giving everyone a chance. The January transfer window is still a good few weeks away. There's a lot of games between now and that window, and we don't even know if he'll go in January, if the club don't even know the club can't sell him. So he could have said, right, okay, I'm going to get my head down and just get on with it, and let's see where what I can do. But he hasn't. He's sort of gone quite quickly for me. Yeah. That's the issue I've got. And it's not like I've fallen out and I hate Marcus Rashford and that nonsense. I still got a lot of time for him. I still love him, and I'm gutted to see him go. But that disappoints me, the nature of this, because for me, we were talking about it earlier, and what I wanted to see from Rashford and from Garnacho, but especially from Rashford as a 27-year-old who's been here for many, many years, was a reaction, a positive reaction to what had happened with Ruben Amorim. Say, right, I'm going to show you I can be a big part of what you're trying to do at this football club. And the worst case scenario, you try your best, for whatever reason it doesn't work out, you don't fit his system, you're not his guy, you move on to a different club, and we go, you know what, Marcus gave it his all, can't fault it. But to just go on a Tuesday after you've been dropped on a Sunday, I'm ready for a new challenge now. I don't know, man. I just thought, maybe I'm being naive, but I just expected a bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, I think when you put it like that, that is a good point. Because like you said, he's not leaving this week. Man United aren't selling him on the 17th of December. And the likelihood is we'll struggle to sell him in January just because of the nature of the January transfer window. So, there's a very good probability, I would say, that may have been slightly decreased by this statement, but there's a good probability that Marcus Rashford is still here till the end of May at least. Now what? What's his relationship like, and what's his game time like, and what's his relationship with the fans like between now and the end of May? Like, if he's here for the rest of the season, having just said, basically, I want to leave, Like, what does that do to his chances of ever salvaging this now? And like maybe as far as he sees it, that it's been years of this, and maybe the club hasn't backed him and supported him in the way he'd like, and that he thinks he's been made a scapegoat. I don't know, and that this is just the final step in what has been maybe 3 or 4 years of or maybe even longer than that. When he's gone through difficult times, maybe he doesn't think the club sort of back him the way that they should, but. You're looking to end your United career 7 months before the season ends, or 6 months before the season ends. What do these next 6 months look like now? That's a big concern for me. And then obviously Paul Pogba said that. Was it pre-season when he said the same thing? And he continued to play for United for another 2 years, and people forgot once the performances started rolling in. So there's a very good chance that Marcus Rashford gets a couple of goals in the next month, and we kind of go, well, we know he wants to leave, but while he's here. But that feeling of like he's desperate to turn this round, that's gone now. I don't believe that anymore.
I think
it's like he's given up on it.
I do feel like this is. I mean, judging from some of the comments, and get involved in the chat in the comments. I'm going to go through some of the comments at the minute, but my phone's been going off the hook since this dropped, and there's a lot of negativity towards this. Not people not being as kind as I am when I say I'm a bit disappointed. Some people a bit angry about it. LJ says sometimes two parties together run its course. Last night my wife told me that she and the kids are seeking a new challenge. Life goes on. Joshua,
I like how the challenge, like this whole relationship was a challenge.
I want a new one.
A new challenge.
Joshua Bowwater says Rash's Europa debut was my first game I went to solo after moving to Manchester for uni. I'll be gutted to see him go, but it's best for all parties. Keith Kelly says if we want to win, we need to be ruthless. There is no room for sentimentality. Same went for Ashworth. If you don't perform, you have to go. Darren DePaul says, honestly, it's so Ronaldo-esque this. Big win, but the news is about other stuff. Being a big defender of him like UJ, time to go abroad in brackets. Shame. FBF1 Sports says this sets a dangerous message that you can abuse a player and force that player to leave. How long is it until Garnacho or Mainu goes? That's a worry. Ant L says this whole thing has killed what value he had. Mark Hatton, who's been a member of the academy for 48 months, thank you for your support, says taking a leave out of his mate Sancho's book, maybe it's for the best. Ian Warren says the response of a player who can't be turning this around, no fight, just an abject surrender to circumstances, sounds like a spoiled child. Colette Carey in the chat says I'd rather see him do well for himself than being off in so many matches. Would be sad to see him go, but it could make room for better or fresh legs. Glenn F, I'm totally gutted by the news. I thought it would be a red forever, and I blame it on the fans. He says there, Jed's dead baby says, do we want to win the league or not? That's what every decision has to be focused on. Getting rid of players who aren't good enough is a no-brainer. Someone else says, Kez Levin says he doesn't fit the system. Garnacho is the same. Just on that, there's a bit more to this statement. Can I just read about him?
Yep, absolutely.
Him not fitting into the system or fitting into the system. So he's asked about that. Henry Winter says, even though he has scored 3 times for Amorim, the new head coach's 3-4-2-1 system does not appear to suit Rashford. The player himself makes a point about his adaptability, whether left wing, number 9 or number 10. This is Rashford now. I have traits to play in all 3 positions. Some positions are more natural to me. Some positions I have to train more and do a bit more tactical work in brackets. The left side suits me the best. Back to Henry Winter, but Amorim doesn't play 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. He plays with 2 10s. The left 10 still suits me, but you have to adapt your game. The biggest skill set is adaptability. People might not see it, but eventually they'll see I have played in plenty of different positions under all the managers. Then there's a little bit more from Winter. He says, if his days under Amorim look numbered, Rashford will pursue his dreams elsewhere. The last time Rashford returned to Button Lane, this is where they are at a school, he was asked by a young girl, what's your biggest achievement? He replied, I haven't achieved it yet. So, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate and to just put my journalism head on, is there an opportunity here where you could still, for me, it says like, look, I want to go. Is there an opportunity where you could say, look, I can either change my mind, explain myself and say, I'm ready for a new challenge, but if the manager's, willing to give me more games, or if things turn around at United, I could stay. Do you think there is an opportunity here where this isn't the end game? Or do you think...
Where he almost comes out and is like, I didn't think this would blow up like this.
Maybe.
He's kind of... in his head, does he think he's just come out and said, you know what, it's not working out for me at United at the minute. And if we can go back to the bit where he talks about the new challenge. Sorry, I know you've got it's a big piece, but he talks about when I can see things aren't right, I'm not going to make it worse. That's a little bit interesting to me. He says, if I know that the situation is already bad, I'm not going to make it worse. Yeah.
I've seen all the players I've left in the past, and I don't want to be that person. When I leave, I'll make a statement, and it will be it from me. From the heart, as always, be a Red.
Yeah. So
no, sorry.
Yeah.
The bit from the heart is from Henry Winter.
Yeah. So the bit where he says, I know that the situation. If I know a situation is already bad, I'm not going to make it worse. And he references other players, maybe Ronaldo there, maybe Sancho. I'm not sure. Players who have said stuff after they've left in the past, but like. I get the feeling he feels a little bit sorry for himself, and not just from the manager situation. I think he looks at the way the fans have maybe turned on him a little bit, or not necessarily everyone's turned on him, and now that everyone hates him. But the sentiment around Marcus Rashford isn't what it was 18 months ago, is it? No one could say that it is, and that he sort of is feeling a bit hurt by that and a bit down by that, and it's almost like, well, if you don't want me anyway, I'll leave. Like, I wonder if there's an element of him, I don't want to say cry for help like he doesn't know what he's saying, but like, he's talking like a man there. That quote, the full quote there, it sounds like a bloke to me who feels shit at the minute. And like, if it's a bad situation anyway, I'm not going to make it worse. Well, what's the bad situation? That you're not playing very well and that you think the fans have done. I think he feels like he's overstayed his welcome a little bit, and he's sort of resigned to that. And obviously, as a result of that, he wants to leave. But it is a shame, and it's a shame any time a United player leaves under these sort of circumstances, especially someone who's had the moments and the potential that he's got and had. And I think to a certain degree, when he got 30 goals that season, the two sort of 23 or 21 goal seasons, whatever they were, he sort of has fulfilled his potential for a season or two. So he's not someone that's completely like never got there, but he's not become the player and the sort of the talisman that we'd hoped he might be. And maybe that's sort of weighing on him now. Maybe all of the things that we think about him, he thinks about himself, and he knows 30 million people around the planet think the same. Like, that isn't an easy position to be in. And it sounds like to me, he's just had enough of it. And not that it is us or, the media or whatever. I think he's just had enough of what life is like for him at Manchester United, regardless of whose fault it is. It sounds like he's a bit sad to me. And not that makes me, it doesn't mean you should stay, but I wonder if maybe he's saying that to see if people will go, oh no, we didn't mean it, please stay. Because, I don't know, it's a bit, it just feels a bit, I don't know. It just feels sad. He feels sad reading that. Yeah,
it does. I do feel that with Henry Winter as well, who's known Marcus for a while. I know last time I spoke to Henry about Marcus, he said he hadn't spoken to him for a little while, but in the past they have spoken. I know they've got on quite well. So I do think Henry would be savvy enough to know how this is going to go down, and to know and to tell Marcus how this is going to be, perceived. I don't think there'll be. I'd be surprised if there's any naivety from Marcus or Henry Winter that this isn't going to go down as you're going. You've had enough. Yeah. You want to leave.
No, I do agree with that.
I think if this was, say, I don't know, the MEN or the Sun or whatever, and they'd just done a gotcha interview with him, just grabbed him on his doorstep or something, it'd be different. But this feels like Marcus Rashford speaking to a journalist he trusts, when I'm presuming there's not a lot of journalists he trusts, and a journalist who wouldn't throw him under the bus, wouldn't just say, right, well, I'm going to put this out on Twitter and be damned. I think both of them know how this will be perceived, and I think the sort of the smart money is that Marcus has done this and been willing to speak to Henry for a reason, and I think he has got to the end of the road. My only issue with all of this is I don't mind it if a player feels like, look, I think Marcus Rashford has got every reason to feel unloved because he gets more stick than almost anyone. Yeah, I get that. I get if he looks at it and goes, look, it's best for everyone if I move on. I understand that. And I've said something similar myself. I love Marcus Rashford, but I've been to the point now I'm like, is it just better if he just goes to somewhere else? Because he can get on with his career and maybe get back to that player that we saw a few years ago who was absolutely banging in goals and running at defenders and just being that exciting talent.
Electric player.
Yeah, he can do that. United fans can move on for him. And also look back at him with fondness. And when he gets back to Old Trafford, I remember saying, get a good reception. Be sort of revered as someone who played a big part in the post-Sir Alex Ferguson successes that we have had, because we've won the FA Cup and League Cup and Europa and the League Cup again, and I think won the FA Cup a couple of times. I think he's been there for all of those. Yeah. He's been there for every. I know it's not Premier League, Champions League, but he's played his pint trophy, so you can be like, okay, it's a you know, you can leave on a good note. I just feel the timing in this for me. You've got a new manager who's come in, he's made a call, he's dropped you. He stuck up for you in a way and said, look, it's not disciplinary, the door's still open, and then you give this interview where you've said, that's the only thing that I think is the mistake he's made here.
Yeah.
I think he could have waited, or he could have spoke to Amorim first and said, look, you know, if I'm not part of your plans, I get it, I need to move on. There could have been some way of doing it rather than 2 days after you've been dropped, this comes out. I just don't think that timing is great.
Does it bother you as well from the perspective of, we've just had a sort of, I know Ahmad isn't a new player, but he's someone that is breaking into the team for the first time properly, that is flying, took his Rashford's position to, you know, not directly, but is in one of those number 10 roles that Rashford would be occupying at Man United, has just starred in the win against Man City, and now instead of being able to bask in the glow of that, we've got 2 days later Rashford coming out with this. Does that frustrate you at all, that it's come 2 days after the Derby win?
Not as much. I'll get your point.
Trying to sort of pull focus, maybe.
Yeah, it's not great, but I feel like the whole, this feels very much like the time that you put out a story like this, because from experience, remember when we interviewed Jesse Lingard, the sort of what we were told was the club don't like a story or an interview going out, I think, the day before a game.
Fair enough.
And obviously on the day of a game. I mean, obviously some players do that. Was it Mino Raiola? Sorry, the Paul Pogba interview. Was it the
day before the Europa League final?
Yeah,
won it?
saying no, the day before the Champions League game against RB Leipzig, where
we needed to win to not
get knocked out, and he gave the interview saying Paul Pogba wants to leave. And again, that wasn't Pogba, that was his agent. But the club don't like it, I think, if it's the day before the game. So I think Marcus and Henry will know that. So they won't want to do it tomorrow because that's the day before the Carabao Cup game.
Okay, fair enough.
If this is what we had when we were on the Jesse Lingard interview, we know it was a few years ago, but I'm presuming that the rules, if you will, are still the same. So he probably thought, okay, had it been the day after the Derby, I'd be 100% with you on that. I'd feel like that's too soon after the Derby. I mean, I'm not fond of this timing either, but I think the day after would have definitely, let's take all this tension away from Ahmad, his performance, or make it about this. Now, it's not as bad, and to be fair, Marcus has been getting a lot of grief in the press because I saw a lot of the back pages that weren't focusing as much on Diallo's performance and winner, and were on about Marcus Rashford getting dropped because he's still one of the biggest sort of names in football. So understand that. I just feel like, just the optics of it, you got dropped on a Sunday, on Tuesday you say you want to leave. The first time you've ever been dropped from a squad, I think, because of, you know, just your performance in training or the manager not fancying you, I think that's never happened before. Since he's broke into the team. I don't think Marcus Rashford has ever been dropped from a squad unless he's been rested or injured. Yeah, I think that this is the first.
I can think of.
Yeah, and the first time it's happened under a new manager who's still finding his feet. A couple of days later, you're saying, I'm ready to go. I don't think it's great. I'll be honest with you. We'll get into some more of the comments and the chat, and we'll get a few more. Give us your reactions. Let us know what you think. You know, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like this is just the right thing to do? Do you think, like, the regardless of the timing, you know, you think it's what you should have done? I'll name this podcast later. Says Rash has been hounded. Can't blame him. He's been torn apart for every aspect of his life. Why doesn't the same narrative apply to Grealish? Sad, really. I keep hearing about this Jack Grealish thing, and I get your point. And I've said it myself. Grealish has scored no goals in 45 games. He cost 100 million quid. Why is he not getting the same attention and criticism that perhaps Marcus Rashford is? I think a few people recently have started to sort of sit up and say notice of Jack Grealish. But this is the thing, and I'm not just saying this to be funny. Marcus Rashford is at a far bigger club than Manchester City. He just is. Yeah. And he's a bigger player at that club than Jack Grealish is at City. Like, Jack Grealish isn't City's biggest name. You could argue that Marcus Rashford is Manchester United's biggest name.
I think he is.
Yeah.
In England, certainly. Yeah.
So there's a big difference there. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying those are the reasons. What goes on at Manchester United will always make more headlines than what goes on at Manchester City.
Yeah. And trust me. Any journalist will tell you the same. Yeah. It's not a secret. Like, there's a reason why United get linked with every transfer possible, because it makes the Tottenham transfer more exciting if it's Tottenham and United interested in whoever.
Look at some of the numbers you see on certain things. When Haaland joined City, you look at, I know it sounds crazy, but look at some of the social numbers you see, look at some of the amount of stories you see. If he'd have joined United, it'd have broke the internet.
Yeah.
It would have. Like, the United story is just bigger. If United were facing 115 charges, you would never, ever hear the end of it. It'd just be constant. It's just like that. United are just in a different... Even though City have had a lot of trophy wins, United is just a bigger club. And Marcus Rashford is a bigger name than Jack Grealish. And I'm not saying it's right, because it annoys me a little bit, but that's the way it is.
And really, the thing should be, Rashford should get as little hate as Grealish, not Grealish should get more hate.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In an ideal world, neither of them are getting a load of hate. People talk about it like adults and, come to conclusions, but the stick and the hatred that he gets shouldn't be happening at all anyway.
Akash Solomon says, might as well judge if it's a new day based on United drama than the sun rising in the sky at this point. I think the constant online abuse is what's tipped Marcus towards the door, to be honest.
I think that's probably
Marcus Rashford makes 350k and United want around 40 mil. Who is paying that for a mid-toxic player? Honestly, who? He's going to be loaned out wages till contracts expire.
I think calling him toxic is unfair, personally. Toxic to me, that word doesn't just mean he walks about a bit on the pitch and... toxic to me means that he's infecting others and that he's a bad person to have in the dressing room. And I don't know, I'm not in the dressing room, but I don't think we've got much evidence of that people hate him or that he's spreading lies or he's difficult to work. I think he got maybe not taking things as serious as he should be at United right now. But I think toxic is, I don't know, maybe pushing it a little bit far for me.
Yeah, I agree. Cozy says, give the 10 to Ahmad, end of story, let Marcus go. Matt Wicks, who's been a member of the first team 47 months, says, if you're Kobe Mainu, looking at how much Rashford gave and yet was discarded like this, why the hell are you sticking around? What loyalty exists? Kareem Kenaway says, says, no going back from this, unfortunately. I do too much. Says, who on earth wants to sign him on 350k a week? LMP 22KZ says, he's been pushed out, but he's done this to get ahead of it and make it more positive on his side instead of fans wondering if he's refusing to leave. Burnside is back. The comments coming thick and fast, so I'm going to power through them. Says some players need to be challenged, others need cotton wool. Let's not pretend that Fergie didn't know this. Has to be room for nuance. That's 3 world-class players out the door, too rigid. Garlic Breadman says, honestly, I'm a bit sick of these comments, not trying to defend him or anything, but I feel like people need to have at least some class about themselves when he's leaving. Sad day all round. Shabugan says, Rashford has made some mistakes, but the microscope he's been put under has been completely unfair, even for a United player. This is heartbreaking. Paul Bridget says, will this reduce his transfer cost wanting to go? Ian Warren says, does he now train with the kids? Aidan Light, welcome to the academy, thank you. Keith Kelly says, Marcus isn't blameless, he hasn't been good enough. Aidan Light says, not for nothing, but what's wrong with keeping Rashford as a backup 9 to Højlund? He's
on too much money.
He's miles ahead of Xerxes in that position, but there you go. Joseph just answered that one. Paul Bridget says, could he be the leak? I'm sick of hearing about this leak. Do you know what? About 100 people know the team news, Like, genuinely. I've no idea who's leaking the team news. I'd be very surprised if it's Marcus Rashford because I don't know what he gains from that. But it's impossible, I think, to know who's leaking that team news. I've had team news, and I'm not ITK. I pride myself on not being ITK. And I've had team news, and I didn't get it off Marcus Rashford. So I don't know is the honest answer. But I think this whole leaking the team news thing has become a big distraction. Luke McKelvey says, could he not also be saying playing under Amorim is a new challenge? I don't think so. I'll name this podcast later as gifted a Stretford Paddock membership. Rab McCudden says he'll probably play out of his skin for the rest of the season. I hope he does. AJ says we should be happy for him in the club, thank him for his service and wish him the best going forward. Joe?
Yeah.
Is that it then? With Marcus?
I think it probably is.
Yeah.
I think so. Unless he comes out and says, I didn't quite mean the way it's come across, and what I meant is, right now it feels like the only way for me to sort of change things is by leaving, and if people want me to stay, then I'd love to stay. Do you know what I mean? If that happens, then maybe. But if that's what he thinks and that's the statement as it lives and as it sort of exists, that's it, innit? Amorim is not crucial enough in Amorim's plans that I think he'll be begging him to stay. Like, I don't think that will happen. And this whole thing of like who's going to pay for him, that is a concern. I do think there will be suitors for him. Maybe there won't be 10, but I think there'll be, there's more than 3 or 4 players in the world that aren't in Saudi who get paid as much as he does. It's not that rare for someone to get paid 300 grand a week. So I think there will be places he can go, and I think he probably will leave at the end of the season, unfortunately.
I don't often say this as well, but can just say, like, I'm really impressed with the way Henry Winter, who's one of the top tier journalists, he is.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we had Henry Winter on the channel, we just started Paddock. It felt like a big deal to us because we all read Henry Winter's work and he's well known and he's such a nice guy. Me and you spoke to him on Wembley Way, didn't we? Yeah. Just one of the good guys. He's been on the channel a lot and he's always shown us a lot of love and support. And I like the way he's gone about this. He's not sensationalised it. He's not clickbaited it, if you can call it that. He's not trying to sell it as a story. He's just done it as a tweet where he's sort of painted a picture, told a little story, spoken to Marcus Rashford. There's times when Henry Minter's given his own thoughts on it, and he isn't just being all, Marcus is wonderful at everything and he's amazing and all these rosy. He's been, and sort of slightly critical at times as well, but honest. And yeah, I think it's a really good piece of journalism as well from someone I've got a lot of time for. We're going to leave it there. Look, I get that this is something that, sorry, I said we're going to leave it there, but I think there's about 10 more comments that have come in, so I'm going to power through these. I'm going to leave it there. LMP22KZ says, when people use the word toxic in regards to Rashford, I think they mean he's become a poor role model and example at the club. He should inspire like Ronaldo, but instead, young players see Belfast. David Abikeme, has been a member of the academy for 2 months, says, which UB would like to see Rashford to go to continue his development, hopefully be in the England squad again. I wish Rashford the best. I don't know, I get what he means. Mr. Creed MC says, a grown man knows exactly what he's doing. Excuse me. Bit of windy pops.
You're going to be sick.
Someone said, you know what made me laugh, right? I've lost the comment because it was right at the beginning. Said, they obviously knew they were in the studio.
I love that.
And then Harvey, I think, commented, Stretford Paddock Christmas Day. Ruined.
2024. This is it. Thank you.
We were around the corner in case you wondered why we're still in the studio. Not that me and Joe live in the studio at 8 o'clock at night.
And thank you to Ethan.
Thanks to producer Ethan there, who put his Christmas beers down and came running to the studio with us to give you the breaking news. That's the dedication we have on this channel. Do you know what I mean? Listen. We'll have a bit of reaction in the morning, probably me from my kitchen. We'll see what all the papers are saying. We'll see if there's any developments, any updates, if Marcus himself has come out with a comment by that time. Be interesting to see. But yeah, listen, I'll be honest with you, it's a sad time for me. A sad day.
Me too.
Because I was at the Midtjylland game when he made his debut. And I'll tell you something happened in that game. There was 2 lads who were near me, and it was a Europa League game, so it was a different sort of crowd than the usual people that sit there, because it's different people had different tickets and it wasn't like the usual season ticket lot. Me and my mates and that were there, but there's 2 guys who were laying into Marcus Rashford in that first half. Oh, what's he doing in the team? He's like hammering him.
Wasn't this his debut?
Yeah, I remember a few people saying, shut up. They were levered.
Right.
And then he scored 2 goals and it was like, and then he went on this run of scoring in the derby, the winner against Arsenal, the rest of it. But there's always, it just reminded me of that, there's always been this sort of element of people that haven't quite bought into Marcus. And sometimes he's not helped himself, sometimes he's been phenomenal, sometimes he's not been good enough at all. But he's always seems like he's not been a player who, other than maybe a brief period, has been, maybe when he first came onto the scene, and a little period, has been universally loved. I think there's always been an element of people who've not really buzzed off Marcus Rashford playing for United, and it is a bit sad because I remember watching that debut. I remember thinking we could have a future star here. I remember the derby as well when he got the winner at the Etihad when he was still a teenager. I thought this could be a kid that could go to the very top with Manchester United and help us get back to winning titles, and wasn't to be. Just a sad ending to something that should have been so much more. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, Joe. Always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you to you lot as well for getting involved in the comments. Sam Ritchie with the super chat says, always been a big fan of Rashford, but I think it's best for all parties. Oh no, sorry. Yep, but I think it's best for all parties. I really hope he performs and has a great rest of his career. Yeah, I do. Wish him well. Wish him well.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That's been Joe. I've been Jay. This has been breaking news. Marcus Rashford chatting to Henry Winter, says he's ready for a new challenge. See you in the next one.